What if the person holding your bouquet was planning to bury you? August 15, 2023, Manila, Philippines. A bride's final walk wasn't down the aisle. It was into a trap set by her own maid of honor. How deep does betrayal go when it's masked by love? Maria never saw it coming. Her trust, her love would be the perfect weapon. Who could have known? Who would have believed it? The truth is darker than you think. The pieces are scattered, but together they reveal a chilling truth. Are you ready to piece it together? Stay with me. The twists are just beginning. Manila's humidity wraps around you like a wet blanket. But inside the air-conditioned towers of Makati, dreams are born. In a city where ambition is as tall as the skyscrapers, Maria Santos stood as a shining example of what it meant to rise above. She wasn't just a product of her surroundings. She was a symbol of the modern Filipina success story. At 26, Maria commanded a team of 20 marketing professionals. Her corner office overlooked Ayala Avenue, a testament to the hard work and sacrifices she'd made to get there. Her salary, more than most Filipino families see in 5 years. She had everything. The dream job, the lavish lifestyle, and the world at her feet. But Maria wasn't just another high achiever. She believed in the American dream, Filipino style, hard work, ambition, and the promise of a better future. In every moment, Maria's joy was contagious. She was the epitome of success, and everyone who met her saw her future as limitless. Maria was on top of the world with no sign of slowing down. But in a world where everything seems perfect, how do you know when the cracks begin to form? The first sign of a perfect life slipping away is often the hardest to see. Maria's success wasn't just professional. It was a lifestyle, one carefully curated for her social media feed. Luxury restaurants, designer bags, exclusive events. It all looked perfect and she wanted the world to see her 50th floor condo in Bonifacio Global City. A breathtaking 15 million pesos worth of space was a testament to her journey from middle-class Quezon City to the very heights of Manila's elite. Every corner of her life reflected her hard-earned success. Her home was more than just a place. It was a statement of everything she had achieved. But beyond the glitz and glam, Maria never forgot where she came from. Every month, she'd send money to her parents. 50,000 pesos, more than her father made working as a jeepney driver. She wasn't just living the dream for herself. She was carrying the weight of her family's hopes, lifting them out of their struggles, one wire transfer at a time. Maria had it all, or so it seemed. But when you live the perfect life, it's easy to forget that no one ever really knows the full story behind the screen. In the midst of all the hustle and ambition, Maria found something just as powerful: love. It wasn't just a fairy tale. It was her reality. Miguel Reyes, 28, a successful architect who had designed 3 of the most talked about developments in Bonifacio Global City. Their love story began at a charity gala for Gawad Kalinga, a foundation dedicated to uplifting the poor. Miguel designed homes for those who had nothing, while Maria marketed dreams for those who already had everything. Together, they were Manila's ultimate power couple. In every photo, every moment, their love was a blend of tradition and modernity. In Intramuros, where the old world meets the new, Maria and Miguel were building their own future. A future that seemed destined to last forever. They had the perfect life. At least that's what everyone saw. To the outside world, they were untouchable. Their love a shining example of everything good in the world. But sometimes even the most flawless stories have a darker side. Carmen Della Cruz entered Maria's life during their freshman year at 8 Neo, one of the most prestigious universities in the Philippines. Maria was ambitious, focused on her marketing degree, while Carmen was more interested in psychology. A fitting choice given the irony of what would unfold. Carmen, 27, was everything Maria wasn't, where Maria was driven and meticulously organized. Carmen was laid back, spontaneous, and free-spirited. Maria thrived on deadlines and plans. Carmen was the type who lived in the moment, always open to whatever life threw her way. Together they formed an unlikely duo, Maria, the high achiever with the world at her feet, and Carmen, the artistic soul who preferred to take life as it came. They bonded over late night study sessions, shared laughter, and dreams of the future. Their friendship was built on opposites attracting. But like all things that seem perfect, opposites can also repel with a force that's more dangerous than anyone ever saw coming. What began as a solid foundation of friendship, two women balancing each other out, soon would face a test neither could have anticipated. While Maria conquered Manila's corporate world, Carmen found herself stuck in a cycle. 5 jobs in 3 years: retail, call center, virtual assistant. Nothing seemed to fit. Maria's penthouse in Bonifacio Global City was the epitome of success. A stunning 50th floor view of the city she had made her own. Carmen, on the other hand, could only dream of such luxury. Her small apartment in Quezon City, a far cry from the life her friend had built. Maria's monthly salary, 250,000 pesos. Carmen's 25,000 if she was lucky. A gap that grew wider each month. Each success, each promotion. But money wasn't the only thing driving a wedge between them. As Maria's life flourished, Carmen's frustrations grew. The gap wasn't just financial. It was personal. It was a feeling Maria could never fully understand. The weight of being left behind. Each moment of success for Maria felt like a reminder of her own failures to Carmen. It wasn't just jealousy. It was something deeper. Something far more dangerous. In the silence, the tension between them grew. Like a quiet storm, waiting for the perfect moment to break. By 2023, their friendship existed mainly on social media. Carmen's comments on Maria's posts grew shorter, colder, more distant. At first, it was subtle, a shift in tone from, "so proud of you, sis," to heart emojis, then just likes, and eventually silence. Maria noticed. But she dismissed it. "Carmen's just going through something," she told Miguel one night, unable to recognize the warning signs. She had no idea how right and wrong she was. In the silence, a friendship once filled with laughter and love was quietly disintegrating, and Maria, caught in the glow of her success, had no idea how deep the fracture had become. Inside Carmen's 20 apartment, envy festered like mold in Manila's rainy season. The walls closing in became a prison for her thoughts, her resentment building with each passing day. It wasn't just her circumstances that trapped her. It was the relentless comparison to Maria. Police would later find Carmen's journals filled with raw, unfiltered emotions and an obsession with her best friend's life. "Why her and not me?" appeared 47 times. It was a question Carmen could never escape. With every entry, her anger and bitterness towards Maria grew, festering in the pages of her life. Her journals weren't just a record of her thoughts. They were a manifestation of her unraveling mind. Carmen exhibited classic signs of pathological envy, a condition where another's success becomes personal. Torture is a deep consuming obsession. It's not just jealousy. It's a psychological breakdown that leads the individual to believe they deserve what others have. And any failure to attain that leads to devastating emotional consequences. In the quiet of her apartment, Carmen's envy wasn't just a passing feeling. It was a force slowly poisoning everything in her life. The woman who once called Maria her sister was now driven by a singular dangerous thought. And that thought would eventually take her to a place no one could have ever predicted. Carmen had screenshot over 200 of Maria's Instagram posts. Not to celebrate, to count. Every success, every expensive meal, every designer bag. Each image was a reminder of what she didn't have, what she couldn't attain. A constant tally of Maria's world, perfect and out of reach. Her search history revealed a disturbing pattern. Questions that went beyond idle curiosity. How much does Maria make? What's the price of her condo? What's Miguel's net worth? Carmen wasn't just observing her friend's success. She was calculating it. And with every click, the gap between them grew wider. This wasn't just envy anymore. It was obsession. And obsession, when unchecked, can turn into something far more dangerous. The engagement announcement in January 2023 wasn't celebration news for Carmen. It was a declaration of war. In that moment, something snapped. The woman who had once celebrated Maria's happiness was now consumed by a deep, seething rage. Maria's perfect life was no longer just a reminder of what Carmen lacked. It was a challenge, an insult to everything Carmen had become. And this was just the beginning. A spark had been lit, one that would ignite something far darker than anyone could have imagined. When Maria asked Carmen to be her maid of honor, she thought she was honoring their friendship. But in reality, she was signing her death warrant. For Maria, it was a gesture of love, a final symbol of their bond. But for Carmen, it was a reminder of everything she couldn't stand, the perfect life she could never have. According to text messages found later, Carmen told her sister she wants me to watch her perfect life up close. Fine, I'll give her a front row seat to something else. The message a thinly veiled threat. Carmen wasn't just going to be part of the wedding. She was planning to make it unforgettable in a way Maria would never see coming. The woman who promised to stand by Maria's side was already planning to stand over her grave. What Maria couldn't see was that the smile on her maid of honor's face was the last thing she'd ever trust. Carmen's browser history read like a criminal mastermind's manual. Every search meticulously planned, each query leading her closer to the unthinkable. These were not idle questions. They were carefully curated steps in a plan. A strategy to erase the life of the woman she once called a sister. For 3 months, Carmen studied, researched, planned. Most criminals act on impulse, driven by anger, jealousy, or desperation. Carmen, however, treated this like a business plan, methodical, precise, unwavering. Carmen spent 3 months researching this murder. She didn't rush. Most criminals act out of passion or opportunity. But Carmen approached it like a job, meticulously preparing every detail. She was playing a long game. Each search, each step, brought Carmen closer to her endgame. The plan was taking shape. No mistake would be made, and Maria, unsuspecting, was about to become the perfect victim. What began as a simple invitation to be part of Maria's special day, had transformed into a cold, calculated plot. Carmen wasn't just going to be the maid of honor. She was going to be the last face Maria ever saw. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was a calculated decision, a plan. Years in the making, ready to be set into motion. In the underbelly of Manila, where desperation and survival often walk hand in hand, Carmen found the person who would help her execute her plan. Ryan Torres, 32, an ex-convict from TA with a long history of robbery convictions. A man who knew how to disappear when things went wrong and who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Carmen didn't approach him directly. She found Ryan through a former college classmate who mentioned knowing people who could handle problems. It was a simple connection, one that opened doors to a world Carmen had never truly walked through before. They met in a small sari store, the perfect place for whispers and secrets. Carmen laid out her offer. 20,000 pesos to create a distraction and provide the weapon. Ryan thought it was for a robbery, easy money, a quick score. He had no idea he was being roped into something far more dangerous. Carmen made sure he understood the job. Nothing too complicated, just a distraction, just enough chaos to cover the real crime. And in that moment, Ryan signed up for something far darker than he could ever imagine. In his eyes, it was just another job. But for Carmen, it was the beginning of a plan that would end in murder. Carmen needed a weapon. Something that could be easily acquired, easily concealed, and most importantly, effective. After careful consideration, she chose a claw hammer. A hammer simple, ordinary, and yet devastating in impact. It was a weapon that could be hidden in plain sight with no questions asked. A hammer is personal. It requires getting close, making direct contact. This wasn't about robbery. This was about rage. The victim is not just injured. They are struck with purpose, with a desire to cause harm. The choice of weapon reveals a lot about the intent behind the crime. Carmen was prepared. On August 10, just 5 days before the murder, CCTV footage captured her buying the hammer at AC Hardware in Quezon City. She didn't hesitate. It was a small, seemingly innocent purchase. But for Carmen, it was the final piece of her deadly puzzle. The hammer wasn't just a tool. It was a symbol of everything Carmen had become. And in the days that followed, the plan would come to its brutal conclusion. Carmen used encrypted messaging apps like telegrams, disappearing messages to coordinate with Ryan. She thought these measures would keep her safe, ensuring no trace of their conversations would remain. But Carmen made one crucial mistake. She forgot to delete the backup files. Recovered messages show Carmen's cold calculation. Make it look natural. She'll never see it coming. Every detail was carefully orchestrated. Every message to keep Ryan in line. Carmen had prepared for everything. Or so she thought. By August 14, everything was in place. The weapon, the accomplice, the plan. All that remained was getting Maria alone. And once that happened, there would be no turning back. The Conrad Manila in BGC was Maria's dream venue. At 300,000 pesos per night, it wasn't just a place to celebrate. It was the culmination of everything Maria had worked for. 150 guests were invited. An all-Filipino fusion menu to satisfy every palate. Flowers flown in from Baguio to add a touch of the mountains to Manila's glitz. Maria had planned every detail meticulously for 18 months. This was her day, her moment, the culmination of years of hard work, of dreaming and believing that everything could be perfect. As maid of honor, Carmen had access to everything: the schedule, the venue, the guest list. Information that Maria trusted her with, thinking it was just another sign of their friendship. But Carmen had other plans. She would use this access as a weapon, feeding every detail to Ryan, shaping the perfect moment to strike. Every detail, every arrangement was just another piece of the puzzle. For Carmen, the wedding wasn't about celebration. It was about control. While Maria's dream wedding unfolded around her, Carmen's secret plans were already in motion. Silent, unseen, but ready to unfold in a moment that would change everything. August 12th, the bridal shower at New Rockwell should have been pure joy, an evening to celebrate Maria's upcoming wedding. Instead, it would become Carmen's final performance. Other bridesmaids later described Carmen as off, smiling, but not laughing, present, but not engaged. She seemed to be there physically, but emotionally she was somewhere else entirely. And then came the toast. Carmen's words would later send chills through everyone who heard them. To Maria, who gets everything she deserves. A simple toast, but eerily prophetic. No one knew it then, but those words marked a turning point. One that no one could take back. Maria's college friend, Lisa, noticed something was wrong. Something's off with Carmen, she whispered. But Maria, caught up in the whirlwind of pre-wedding excitement, brushed it off. Pre-wedding stress, she said, dismissing the warning. Maria never saw it. The warning was there, but she was too caught up in the joy of the moment. Carmen's smile, a mask for the rage simmering beneath the surface, would soon crack, and the perfect wedding would turn into something no one could have imagined. August 13th, while Miguel celebrated with his groomsmen at Sky Bar, Maria's bachelorette party hit the Poblation bar scene. A night filled with laughter, dancing, and the last moments of freedom before the big day. Videos from that night showed genuine happiness. Maria dancing, laughing, living her last carefree moments before her life would change forever. It was a night filled with love and excitement. The kind of night that should have lasted forever. But not everyone was swept up in the joy of the night. Carmen, barely present in the crowd, left early, claiming a headache. But in reality, she was making final preparations. She told Maria she needed to take care of some last-minute details, and she did, just not the kind Maria expected. While Maria danced and laughed, Carmen was making sure everything would go according to plan. The night wasn't about celebration for her. It was the final step before the inevitable. Maria had no idea that this would be the last time she would feel truly free. The final pieces were falling into place, and Carmen was about to take her next step toward the unthinkable. August 14th, 2023. Maria's last day alive began with excitement and ended with betrayal. A day that should have been filled with dreams of the future, but would instead be marked by the darkest of events. The bridal suite buzzed with activity. Hair, makeup, final dress fittings, everything in its place, every moment carefully planned. It was supposed to be the start of a lifetime of memories. Tormund played the perfect maid of honor. Helpful, attentive, supportive, and Oscar-worthy performance. Maria, oblivious to the storm brewing, saw only the friend she had trusted for so long. Carmen was the picture of loyalty, the perfect maid of honor. But beneath the surface, she was counting down the hours, knowing exactly what she was about to do. Everything was perfectly timed. The ceremony at 6:00 p.m., the reception at 7 p.m., the promise of happily ever after. But for Maria, that promise would end long before the clock struck midnight. Maria's world was still perfect. Unaware that the one person she trusted most had already decided to destroy it all. This would be the last morning Maria would spend in blissful ignorance. By the time the evening came, everything would change, and there would be no going back. As the day progressed, Maria felt increasingly anxious. The excitement was beginning to fade, replaced by an uneasy feeling she couldn't shake. Something feels off, she told her mother. Maria, the bride about to walk down the aisle, had a strange sense of foreboding, a feeling she couldn't explain, but one that gnawed at her throughout the preparations. Elena Santos, Maria's mother, later said, "I watched Carmen that day. Her eyes were empty, like looking at a stranger." Elena sensed something was wrong, but she couldn't pinpoint it. Just the hollow, unsettling feeling that something was off about Carmen's behavior. Meanwhile, Carmen volunteered for every errand, every task. She was positioning herself perfectly, weaving through the chaos of wedding preparations with the quiet efficiency of someone who knew exactly what was about to happen. She was everywhere, doing everything, all while keeping her focus sharp, her actions deliberate. Maria trusted her. But Carmen's loyalty had long since turned into something darker. Maria never noticed. She couldn't know that while she felt the weight of unease, Carmen had already made her final move. The tension in the air was thickening, and Carmen was in complete control. Her plan unfolding piece by piece while Maria's world slipped closer to its unraveling. 7:00 p.m. Carmen suggested a quiet dinner before the chaos of the wedding day. "Just us," she said. Like old times, the dinner was meant to be a moment of peace before the whirlwind of the wedding, a moment to reflect on their shared history. But for Carmen, it was more than just a dinner. It was the last opportunity to cement her plan. Maria ordered her favorite crispy paw. It was a dish she always loved, the one that made her feel at home. But Carmen barely touched her food, her eyes scanning the room, her mind elsewhere. Restaurant. Security footage shows Maria talking animatedly, lost in the excitement of the day while Carmen checked her phone repeatedly. She wasn't interested in the conversation. She was waiting for something. At 9:30 p.m., Carmen suggested, "Let's get some air. One last walk as single women." It was a walk Maria would never forget, though for reasons far darker than she could ever imagine. The calm before the storm, the final step before everything changed. The night was still young, but Maria's fate was already sealed, and Carmen, the one person she trusted most, was leading her straight into the dark. At 9:47 p.m., security cameras captured Maria and Carmen entering the parking garage elevator together. Two friends walking toward what should have been a brief detour, unaware of the horror that awaited. Carmen lied effortlessly. "I left something in my car," she said. "Come with me. I don't want to go alone." Maria, trusting as always, followed her best friend into the shadows. She had no way of knowing she was walking into her own execution. In that moment, Maria had no reason to fear. She believed the night was still hers to control. But in the quiet of the parking garage, her world was about to come to a violent, irreversible end. This was the moment that would change everything. Maria had no way of knowing that. With each step she took, she was walking closer to a nightmare she would never wake from. Level B2, Section C. Carmen had chosen this spot carefully, a blind spot between security cameras. No one would see what was about to happen. Carmen's car was parked in the darkest corner of the garage. She had moved it there earlier that day during the bridal preparations, ensuring the perfect hiding spot. The hammer was hidden under the passenger seat, wrapped in a towel. Ryan Torres had delivered it that morning. Silent, unassuming, but deadly. Carmen, now standing in the quiet of the garage, was ready. Her plan was in motion, the weapon in her hand, the last piece to complete her betrayal. Maria, trusting, followed Carmen to the car. She had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. She had no idea the woman she called her best friend was about to shatter everything. According to Carmen's later confession, Maria's last words were, "What are you doing?" Those words filled with the innocence of someone who still believed in trust. Those words would be her last. And in the quiet of the parking garage, the final trap was sprung. In that moment, everything Maria had known was ripped away. And Carmen's betrayal, years in the making, would be sealed with one devastating blow. At 10:23 p.m., Carmen Dela Cruz murdered her best friend of 15 years. The first blow was to the back of Maria's head. Instant unconsciousness. The hammer struck with force, taking away her ability to fight back before she even had time to react. The subsequent blows were pure rage. Each strike more vicious than the last. Carmen's face, hidden in the darkness, held no remorse, only fury. 7 strikes total. The forensic team called it overkill. Evidence of deep personal hatred. This wasn't just a murder. It was the culmination of years of resentment, years of envy, and the breaking point of a once strong bond. Maria's life was stolen in the shadows of that parking garage. A life that could have been filled with love, with hope. But instead, it was consumed by the rage of the one person she trusted the most. Carmen had 20 minutes before she was expected back. She used every second to ensure the scene looked exactly as she wanted. She removed Maria's jewelry, scattered her purse contents, and positioned the body to look like a robbery gone wrong. Every detail planned, every action calculated to mislead. Every movement was precise. Every action part of the performance. But this time, there was no audience, just the silence of a life ended in cold betrayal. At 10:44 p.m., security footage shows Carmen returning to the hotel, checking her appearance in the elevator mirror. The performance continued undisturbed, unaffected. She had done her job. Carmen had covered her tracks. The perfect crime had been set in motion, and Maria's death would soon be nothing more than a tragic, unsolvable mystery. August 15, 6 o'clock a.m. The wedding was just 12 hours away, but the bride was already gone. When Maria didn't answer her phone, her mother, Elena, went to check on her. The bridal suite was empty, the bed untouched, the silence thick in the air. Elena's heart began to race. Something wasn't right. The excitement of the wedding day was slipping into a nightmare. She must have gone for a walk, Carmen suggested, her voice eerily calm. You know how she gets nervous. Carmen's suggestion seemed reasonable enough. But deep down, Elena couldn't shake the growing sense that something far darker was at play. As panic set in, hotel staff joined the search. Carmen, ever helpful, volunteered to check the parking garage. I'll look near my car, she offered, calm, collected, just as if she had no idea what had truly happened. And so the search continued. But as Carmen walked toward the garage, she knew exactly where to look and exactly what she would find. At 7:15 a.m., hotel security found Maria's body in the parking garage. Carmen's performance as the grieving best friend began immediately. No, no, no. Carmen screamed when she saw the body. Her grief seemed genuine to everyone present. Her performance flawless except for one thing. It was all an act. Her performance was so convincing, so well rehearsed that no one questioned it. The woman who had betrayed her best friend now appeared as the heartbroken victim. As the one who had lost everything. First responders arrived quickly. Paramedic Jose Rivera later recalled. The friend was hysterical. We actually had to sedate her. Looking back, it was the perfect act. Carmen's hysteria was a performance that fooled everyone around her. But beneath the tears, beneath the pain, was the cold, calculated mind of the woman who had planned Maria's death. The body of Maria Santos was discovered, and the world that had once been filled with joy and promise now lay shattered. But for Carmen, the hardest part was over. The rest was just a matter of playing the part. Detective Inspector Elena Santos, no relation to the victim, had solved 23 homicides in her 15-year career, but this one felt different. Elena was no stranger to death. She had seen it in every shape and form. But something about this case set her on edge. The clean precision of the crime. The lack of signs of a struggle. It didn't sit right. Robbery gone wrong was the initial theory. Maria's jewelry was missing. Her purse scattered. It fit the profile of a typical theft gone awry. But the timeline didn't add up. Who robbed someone in a hotel parking garage at 10:23 p.m.? And more importantly, why? Hadn't anyone heard anything? No struggle, no screams, no alarms raised. The pieces didn't fit. Elena knew that this wasn't just a botched robbery. It was something far more deliberate, far more personal, and she wasn't going to let the truth slip through the cracks. The Conrad Manila had 47 security cameras. Carmen had forgotten about 3 of them. Camera 23 showed Maria and Carmen walking to the garage together. The timestamp was clear. Nothing out of the ordinary, at least not yet. Camera 31 showed only Carmen returning alone. The timestamp 10:44 p.m. No Maria, no sign of struggle, just Carmen walking back into the hotel as if nothing had happened. The gap between 10:23 p.m. and 10:44 p.m. Carmen had vanished from all camera views. Exactly when the murder occurred. It was the perfect window. No witnesses, no cameras watching, just Carmen acting without interruption, executing her plan with chilling precision. The security footage was the key. Carmen had made a mistake, one that would lead straight to her. Carmen's first police interview was a masterclass in deception. She wept. She trembled. She begged for answers. But beneath her performance, the lies began to unravel. Maria was so stressed about the wedding. She wanted to get some air. I went to my car to get aspirin for her headache. The lies flowed easily. When I came back, she was gone. Carmen's story was convincing, but something in her eyes said otherwise. Detective Santos noticed Carmen's tells. Subtle but telling signs of deceit. Her fingers constantly touched her neck, a classic sign of anxiety when lying. Her eyes flicked up and to the right, a clear indicator that she was fabricating details. Carmen thought she was playing the role perfectly, but Detective Santos was sharp, catching every detail, every gesture. The act was slipping and the truth was starting to bleed through. Carmen's performance was convincing, but the cracks were starting to show. And with each passing minute, the web she had spun began to tighten around her. In the digital age, murder leaves fingerprints in cyberspace. Carmen had Left a highway of evidence, a trail that was impossible to erase. Carmen's Google searches spanning 3 months painted a clear picture of premeditation. Her questions weren't casual. They were part of a plan. A plan that began long before the night of the murder. Phone records revealed more damning evidence. Location data showed Carmen had been to the parking garage 3 times before the murder. Scouting trips, familiarizing herself with the layout and blind spots. Ensuring the perfect setting for her crime. The evidence was stacking up. Each search, each location visit, each meticulous detail. Carmen had been preparing for this moment for months. It wasn't a crime of passion. It was a carefully orchestrated plan. The web Carmen had woven around herself was beginning to unravel. And now the truth was starting to surface, clear, undeniable, and ready to be exposed. Ryan Torres cracked under pressure. Street smart, but not investigation smart. The weight of his involvement finally caught up to him. Ryan's confession was simple yet telling. He had been promised money for a robbery. Nothing more, nothing less. The murder was never part of the deal. But the pieces were coming together, and his ignorance was no longer an excuse. Torres provided police with Carmen's burner phone number and their complete message history. Every detail, every communication laid out for the investigators to follow. The messages left no doubt. Carmen had orchestrated everything, leaving nothing to chance, including Ryan, who was now an unwilling participant in her plot. Ryan Torres had been the pawn, but he was now caught in the web Carmen had spun. And with his confession, the final pieces of the puzzle had fallen into place. Carmen's biggest mistake was an accidental voice memo on her phone. 3 minutes and 27 seconds of incriminating conversation. Clear audio of Carmen discussing the murder plan. Make it look natural. She'll never see it coming. After the wedding, she'll be perfect. It was the smoking gun. Carmen's own voice damning her in the most chilling of ways. Her plan, her betrayal, all laid out in the clearest terms possible. With this evidence, Detective Santos knew she had her killer. Time for arrest. Carmen's lies had caught up to her and now justice would be served. August 20th. 2023, 5 days after Maria's murder, Carmen was arrested at her apartment. Carmen showed no emotion during the arrest. "I want a lawyer" were her only words, her voice cold, detached, as if nothing had happened. As the search continued, police found the murder weapon in Carmen's closet, poorly hidden behind old clothes, just out of sight. But not out of reach. The hammer, the very tool used to end Maria's life, was now in the hands of the police. Evidence that was impossible to deny. With Carmen's arrest, the pieces of the puzzle had finally come together. The search for justice had begun. The trial of Carmen de la Cruz became the Philippines' most watched murder case of 2024. The nation was captivated, torn between the shocking betrayal and the quest for justice. Prosecutor Maria Gonzalez presented overwhelming evidence, DNA matching Carmen's, digital records of Carmen's premeditated searches, and witness testimony that sealed the case. The defense, however, argued that Carmen was suffering from temporary insanity due to financial stress and mental health issues, a desperate attempt to frame her actions as an uncontrollable outburst, not a calculated murder. For 3 days, the jury deliberated, examining every piece of evidence, every word of testimony. The stakes had never been higher. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury found Carmen guilty of premeditated murder and conspiracy. Justice had been served. But for Maria's family, it was bittersweet. No verdict could bring back their beloved daughter, sister, and friend. Carmen's fate was sealed, but the truth had been laid bare. The web she had woven for years had finally unraveled. And in the end, it was her own actions that brought her down. Life imprisonment. Without parole. Judge Fernando Cruz spoke plainly. This was not a crime of passion, but a calculated execution of trust. Miguel Reyes, his voice breaking, said, "Carmen didn't just kill Maria, she killed my future, my dreams, my belief in friendship." The Maria Santos Foundation for Women's Education has provided scholarships to 50 young Filipinos pursuing business degrees. Maria's legacy now lives on in the future of those she would have inspired. The community felt the loss deeply. BGC installed additional security cameras. And hotels nationwide reviewed their security protocols, ensuring that Maria's tragedy would not be forgotten. Maria's parents visit her grave every Sunday. We talk to her about the lives she's changing. Her mother says, a tear in her eye but strength in her voice. Envy is a poison that destroys from within. If you're struggling with feelings of inadequacy or resentment, seek help. Remember Maria Santos, not for how she died, but for how she lived with ambition, love, and trust. Sometimes the greatest danger comes from those we trust most. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and never let envy consume your soul.